As you build your family tree, you will start to find gaps in your information. At this point, you need to ask yourself the obvious questions of what am I looking for and where will I find it? In this video, we will start to look at accessing and obtaining important certificates and documents online. This is not about the genealogical websites such as Ancestry. This is about obtaining information from important repositories of publicly held documents directly.
Wherever you live in the world, there will be a place where your government holds records. You need to do the research and find out where your local records are held and how to access the collections. In another video, I discuss the kinds of archival offices that may exist near you. I live in Victoria, Australia, and so I will often refer to my own local resources. However, wherever you are, the principles are the same. Each time you seek out specific information, you'll be developing your research skills and knowledge. At first, keep it simple. Try to stick to one piece of information at a time. It's easy to get distracted by the curiosities you discover along the way. You may be able to access documents by visiting the actual repositories that store public records in person. You may be able to view the original documents or view them on microfiche. Increasingly, public institutions are digitising their record collections. One of the great advantages of this is that you may be able to view records from any computer with internet access from anywhere in the world.
The digitisation of records serves many purposes. To protect the original records, to ensure the information in the record itself is preserved, to make it searchable, and also to make them more easily available to the world at large. Many of these records can be obtained or ordered online, often through the repository's own websites. Some may require a fee, others may be available for free. Just about any kind of record you could think of might have been digitised. You will need to research your particular city, region, state or country. But when you are starting on your family history, the most important documents are the ones that concern population, citizenship and movements of people, such as civil registration, shipping and census records, wills and voter records.
You should identify the major repositories of information where your family history might be stored and become familiar with them. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Most of these institutions are offering a public service. As genealogy has become more popular, many repositories are working hard to make their collections easier to access. This video looks at the type of record that is the foundation of all family history research: births, deaths, and marriages.
Civil registration of births, deaths and marriages by governments of its citizens exist across the world. These records are often referred to collectively as civil or vital records. The legal documents that are created from these records are birth certificates, marriage certificates, and death certificates.
So when I use the term civil registration, this is what I'm referring to. These records remain the most important documents available to family historians researching their family tree. Knowing where they are held and how you can access them is very important. Santa Fe County was created in September 1846. The Treaty of Guadalupe was signed in 1848 and marked the beginning of this area as part of the United States of America after the Spanish Wars. If your ancestry is Spanish, you may need to be tracing your ancestry between 1821 and 1846. In the city of Mexico, as Mexico had jurisdiction over this area. And if it was earlier than that, up until 1821, the records were often taken back to Spain, to Sevilla, to the records offices there, or into Mexico City. So If you're lucky enough to have Spanish blood, you may be led on a fantastically interesting journey.
What these records are called, and the name of the location where they are held, may also differ from place to place. They can be called civil records or vital records, and can be held at a Bureau of Vital Statistics, or a Populations Records Office, or a registry of births, deaths and marriages. But they all serve the same function, to hold records that must be created in accordance with the country's laws for the compilation by the state of vital population statistics. When these records were begun varies widely across the world. Sweden was the first to create a national population register in 1631. There are still many places in the world where births and deaths are not being recorded. In fact, almost half the world's children still go unregistered, and millions of deaths go unrecorded. The information required on these certificates is also determined by the laws of a particular time and place. At first you may think that a certificate is little more than a collection of dry facts, names and dates, but the information held in vital records are a window into real people living their real lives and can reveal surprising and interesting insights into their past.
Birth certificates will usually contain the names of the parents. This may include the maiden name of the mother. A mother's maiden name alone can open up a whole new branch of your family's heritage. The certificates will often state the parents' occupations, whether there are other children already in the family, where they live, and other information if you are lucky. Some of the most important discoveries I have made in my family history, I've made through the information I have found on vital records. Here is a story from my family history that I will use to illustrate this. An interesting ancestor of mine, a certain Stephen Sherwin, lived during the convict era and the Australian gold rush. He led a very colourful and interesting life that is detailed in another video. But let's look at what just 2 civil records, both of them marriage certificates, can tell us about him. Having found the year and registration number for Stephen Sherwin's wedding from the Victorian Pioneer Register, it was possible to obtain this marriage record online and view it immediately. We can see that Stephen Sherwin married my great-great-grandmother Mary Kirby in 1853, and we can see the details about the marriage and the couple. Mary Kirby, née Blake, marrying Stephen Sherwin at St Francis Catholic Church in Lonsdale Street, Melbourne. This marriage occurred only months after civil registration was first introduced into Victoria on the 18th of January 1853. And the information required by law is provided. But this is only part of the story of Stephen Sherwin. Further research uncovered that the colourful Stephen Sherwin had married another woman only 2 years earlier. Here is the certificate which shows the bride as one Amelia Hancock, and that the couple were married in the Presbyterian Church of England on the 23rd of May 1851, 2 years before civil registration was introduced. The record holds the bare minimum of information. The bride was a spinster and the groom was a bachelor, and they were regular members of the church's congregation. William and Anne Taylor were the witnesses. Both the witnesses and the bride signed with a cross, indicating that they were probably illiterate, and Stephen Sherwin signs with a crooked, inexpert, but proud scrawl. The priest has signed, and that's all the information provided. Looking again at Stephen's second wedding certificate to Mary Kirby, dated the 20th September 1853, we can see that it is much richer in detail and contains much more information useful for the family historian than the first. This record follows the format still used in Victoria today. This wedding took place here at St Francis Catholic Church in Lonsdale Street, Melbourne, and the couple both claimed to be Catholic. The information in this certificate gives many clues about both parties. The certificate gives the birthplace and date of the bride and groom, the names and occupation of their parents, allowing us to identify both families in their home countries. Looking at Stephen's signatures together, we are in little doubt that they were written by the same person. Both bride and groom were married before. Mary declares it, but Stephen does not.
Not all the information in the certificates can be trusted. Who was Amelia Hancock, Stephen's first wife? We know from the first certificate that he's no bachelor when he marries Mary. What happened to Amelia?
But neither was Mary telling the complete truth here. From further research, it appears that rather than having had 2 living children, Mary was, in fact, the mother of 9. It appears 7 were still alive in Ireland and waiting for word from their mother to follow her to Australia. Here you can see them on the shipping record for the Amazon that arrived in Melbourne on February the 1st, 1855. From a different shipping record, we know that Stephen took Amelia, his first wife, on a visit to Tasmania in late 1852. I suspect to visit people that he knew from a previous period in his life. After this, Amelia disappears from the record. The fact that the wedding certificate records so little information makes her much more of a mystery person. They married in the earliest days of the gold rush. The period was chaotic and hard to police. People abandoned each other. People sometimes even disappeared. We cannot be sure that anything on this record is true.
Certificates can hold many clues to your family's past. They can also give rise to new mysteries and questions. Where did Stephen Sherwin learn his carpentry skills? Did Mary know he was previously married? Why did Mary come to Australia 2 years before her children? What happened to Amelia Hancock?
It is important not to accept all the information in records without question. You need to verify the information through other sources. Always remember that information can be inaccurate, even in these important documents.
Information gathered during the life of a person can often be more accurate than information about a person once deceased, but not always. There can be all sorts of reasons people do not tell the whole truth. Many people were illiterate and simply did not know when they were born or how to spell their own names. Many details can be incorrect for all kinds of reasons. Transcription errors can also make it hard to locate family records. Always try a range of spelling when searching indexes.
Treat death records with more caution. Remember, death records contain information about the deceased provided by people recently bereaved and may be based on assumptions or inaccurate information. Generally speaking, birth and marriage certificates tend to be more accurate, but as we have seen, not always.